Hello, everyone, and welcome to UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. I am Blaine Gilmer here with Jed May and Trent Smallwood, and it is Monday night at 8:15, and that means that Georgia football recruiting will be covered here on the UGA Sports YouTube channel. Trent, Jed, I told you before we got on, man, I'm just happy to have something to lead off the show with other than talking about Arch Manning.
We're not going to talk about Arch.
Yeah, well,
we can't. I think we'd have a mutiny if we didn't do if we totally banned Arch tonight. But for sure, I think the biggest news of the night that we can lead off with right here is that Georgia picks up a commit from 2023 linebacker CJ Allen. Trent, Jed, right off the top here, give everybody your thoughts on this linebacker from Barnesville, Georgia.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those. I mean these first couple weekends of official visits have seen a lot of inside linebackers with C.J. Allen, Pup Howard, Braylon Wilson, and Troy Bowles all in town. And C.J. Allen obviously is the first one to pull the trigger. And I saw him at the state track meets in Columbus a few weeks ago. Dude is built like a tank. I mean, an absolute tank. Dash put a thing on Twitter that said he's the exact same height and weight as a young Monty Rice, and I believe it. Just he looks like a he looks like a Georgia linebacker. That's all I can really say about him. So Glenn Schumann has honed in on him as one of his top targets in the class, and then he's the first one to kind of come on board here.
Trent, I know that some people are going to take this as kind of blasphemy or whatever, especially the Georgia faithful, but this dude rocking the number 3 and standing at 6'1", 220 pounds, and the way that he can run, I'm not saying he's going to be the linebacker that Roquan Smith was, but man, he looks like Roquan out there on the field, especially playing against AA competition there in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just showing that clip at as a running back. I mean, he rushed for over 1,000 yards last year in 10 games. I think he averaged somewhere around 10 yards per carry. I mean, on top of that, he had close to 100 tackles in 10 games. So you're sitting there looking at averaging almost 10 tackles per game and almost 10 yards per rush. He's just an athlete. If you look at him, he kind of reminds you. I'm not comparing anybody to Roquan, but just that mold of an athlete. He's a playmaker when the ball's in there. He's decent in coverage. I think he had 3 or 4 interceptions last year. I mean, he's just all around just a great athlete. And when we looked at him initially, and he was a 3-star, 5.5 ranked in the Rivals ranking, I was like, man, that kid is definitely not. He's a lot better in that ranking, and I think that the offers kind of showed that. And it's a big commitment pickup by Schumann and Kirby.
Yeah, and the reason I say, listen, Roquan Smith measured 6'1", 236 pounds at the combine. Okay, at the NFL combine. This kid right now is listed at 6'1", north of 220 pounds. So that's a big guy coming out of high school. He's able to sift through traffic. He's able to fight off blocks, and he has shown the ability to have closing speed, end up making tackles, searching guys down across the field, and just absolutely being a ball hawking type linebacker. So I really think that Georgia got themselves a good one here, and that obviously Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart, they know a thing or two about linebacker play, and him joining this class, I think now the pressure kind of comes on some of these other linebackers, right? You figure you got 3 inside linebacker spots. You still got Braylon Wilson out there that he visited Michigan, which he is committed to at this point. And did Georgia do enough there to flip him over? Of course, Weeks is around. Quay Russaw, who I talked to after his visit, Glenn Schumann thinks he could eventually play some inside linebacker down the line. They want to start him off out of the edge, things like that. So, it's very interesting, and the spots are going to be limited here. But how much do you think this will kind of jumpstart maybe some of those other guys at the inside linebacker position? Either one of you.
I mean, I personally think this is going to, like you say, the spots are going to get tight at that right there, and I think it's kind of telling with Raylan Wilson coming off that Michigan visit, and Allen originally was planning to commit in July, wasn't it, Jed?
July
And
9th, yeah.
and he moved it up to go ahead and grab his spot. It just tells me that spots are getting tight, and you better jump on board, and you can start seeing that room fill up very fastly.
Yeah, and Troy Bowles is another guy in contention that Georgia really, I think has a very good shot with. It seems like a Georgia Ohio State battle right now for Troy Bowles, and that's another one there. So the spots are starting to kind of fill up quickly, even just with one. It just takes one domino to go, and things start changing the way they look in the entire class. And speaking of that, the domino that everybody's waiting to fall is Arch Manning. We do have to talk about it. He took his visit to Texas, and part of the title here on this show is that Arch enters a new stage in his recruitment, because now it's basically, guys, what I would equate it to is, okay, if it's a jury that's in a trial, they've heard all the arguments. Now it's time for them to go and deliberate, right? And that's where Arch is at. He's made all the visits, and now it's wait and see mode. So, Jed, I'm sure that you perused over there the guys at Orange Bloods, what our cohorts on the Rivals Texas side were saying, and we've compared kind of some notes with them, and then of course we've been getting a feel of it over here on the Georgia side. What's your take on the whole Arch bonanza after the visits have been completed?
The funny thing is, I originally went to Orange Bloods to see the reaction there about Reuben Owens committing to Louisville. Is the reason I was there in the first place. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's the same thing that we've talked about after Arch's visit to Georgia. When the way that family is, the way Arch himself is, they're going to say nice things. They're not going to give schools reason to not feel confident coming out of official visits, especially when it's Georgia and Texas, the two schools that we've think it's been narrowed down to for a while. So I think this is one where it'll take, and none of us really know when he's going to commit. It could be tomorrow. It could be in a month from now. But I think,
let me tell you something. No one knows.
No
one knows when
we don't
he's
even
going
know
to
if Arch
commit.
knows, is the thing. I mean, nobody knows, even if he knows. So I think like the Texas side is projecting confidence about how Texas feels, which is not surprising, and it's a lot of the same stuff that we heard on our side when we left Georgia. So I think this is going to be one where it's going to take a couple weeks. The visit highs are going to wear off and whatever, and with this family, they're going to sit down, they're going to make their pros and cons charts or whatever, and they're going to weigh this thing from all sides. And I think it's like we talked about before. Do you want the well-rounded kind of program that Georgia is, or do you want the more proven quarterback coach that is Steve Sarkisian at Texas? I think that's ultimately going to be the decision.
And that's supposed. That's supposed too. Obviously, I know Sark is really good specifically with quarterbacks, but people want to make him out like the gap between play calling of Sark and Monken is. I mean, right. I think Monken acquitted himself pretty good this past fall, Trent, of being a play caller. I mean, when you come to look at it, Georgia's offense was as explosive as anybody's in the country when they wanted to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt. And you can also look at it another way is, you kind of look at what offense coordinator could not be explosive with those wideouts that Alabama had at that time while Sarkisian was at Alabama. But, we've entered a whole different stretch now. And of course, I guess you can say from the Texas side of things, the Manning family has not given Texas a definite answer yet, is what I've seen from their staff. So this is going to move over the next couple of weeks. I don't think he's going to commit this week. I don't think he's going to commit next week necessarily, but I do think it'll be over the next month that you'll start seeing this come to an end. And it'll be interesting to see what happens, or if anything leaks over the next month. But I would guess not, because nothing's leaked so far.
Well, and there goes Jed. Now here's the thing about it with the Arch Manning deal. Okay, when it comes down to it, I think that it gets way overplayed one way, way overplayed the other. Okay. I think that there's obviously confidence, like you say, coming out of both sides. I can tell you for a fact, I talked to recruits that were there, even a quarterback recruit that was there this past weekend at Georgia in a lower class of 2025. And Buster Faulkner, Todd Munkin, all these guys, they absolutely were acting confident that they are going to, be in a very good position with Arch Manning. They feel like they've done everything they can do to possibly sign him. Texas is espousing the same things according to our cohorts over there. So typically, when you have something like that, Roddy hit the nail on the head on the board here. It's partly because the kid's a good kid. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Trent? When a kid is a good kid, they're not going to just crap on the efforts that you're putting forth and things like that. They're gonna be respectful, and a lot of times being respectful and being nice and thoughtful and things like that come across as, man, this kid's really into the program. He really likes it. Whereas some guys, some guys just aren't that easy to deal with. Arch, to a person, recruits included, everybody that's come in contact with him has said that how nice of a kid he is, how good of a person he is, how humble he is. And I think sometimes that can be mistaken one way or another for, oh, he's going to come here. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, definitely. Yeah, he's a family that, I mean, you know where he's from, you know what family it is. They're not going to jump to any conclusion. They're not going to sway their, I guess, overall opinion off of one visit. They're going to sway it off to all these visits they've taken. They've done all their homework. They've taken the unofficial visits. They've been to Texas multiple times. They've been to Georgia multiple times. They've been to Alabama multiple times. They've taken their official visit. They have not given a silent commitment, therefore, and they're gonna do their homework. They're gonna go home and they're gonna talk about it. They're gonna make a family decision, and that's what's gonna happen. And you're just not gonna see them necessarily tip their hand one way or the other. And yeah, he's a great kid from a great family, and they're gonna do this the right way, and they have since day one.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it is, Georgia, I think honestly, people a lot of times forget about who is in the quarterback room. Already, I feel like Georgia's going to be absolutely fine one way or another at quarterback. We got Ruffy Bids over here on YouTube said, regardless of Arch Manning's commitment, Georgia will be fine. If Stetson can bring home a natty, then any of our guys behind him. I don't know I think you're discounting Stetson a little bit there on that. I don't know. I mean, obviously he was able to do some things last year that those other guys weren't able to do yet, whether it's cognitively or just leadership wise, things of that nature. But definitely, I think there's enough talent around quarterbacks at Georgia now in the Kirby Smart era that, that's a good position to be in as a quarterback. Here's the thing, Jed, if and welcome back, by the way, Jed. I don't know what happened. But if Arch Manning decides to go to Texas, you would think that's almost doing the opposite of what he wants to do in the social scene wise, because you would think he would just want to blend in, just be a normal kid almost type deal, because and be as normal as possible. I think if you go to Texas, you're putting a huge target, a burden on your shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, there's talented players there, but the depth overall and the talent overall is nowhere near what it is at Georgia. I think you have to carry more of a burden if you go to Texas.
Yeah, sorry, Arch called me. I was confirming our dinner reservation for tomorrow. But yeah, and the thing is, it's not only the big man on campus type thing; it's all the expectations of that program, right? You got Texas, who is claims to be a blue blood and whatever, and since they won in 2000 let's see, he won in 2005, played Alabama, and after that 09 season, past decade of Texas, it's just been kind of up and down, and they're back and they're not, they're back, they're not. So if Arch goes there, he is the the face of the rebuild, right? He's kind of what Jacob Eason was when Jacob Eason came here, and Jacob Eason didn't work out in Athens for a lot of different reasons, but that's a lot of pressure for a young man to put on a young man. So that's Blaine, you've said it a lot. That's the Mannings are looking for the college experience. That's something they value a lot, and I think the pressure on Arch specifically at Texas would be a lot different than it would be at Georgia.
Well, I mean, here's the art of this, okay, of any recruiting coverage. I think in just a short time I've been in here, you tell what you've been told, okay. You tell what you've been told. You be truthful about that, and also you try to find some corroborating evidence. That's what makes it hard about the Arch recruitment is there is no corroborating evidence for either one. You get firsthand accounts through someone that Arch spoke with, okay? Maybe even a second-hand account from someone that saw him interacting with somebody, things of that nature. You get to hear second-hand accounts from, okay, here's what Cooper Manning's thinking, here's what Arch is thinking, here's what his brother's thinking, all this kind of stuff. But very rarely, I don't think anybody has gotten a opportunity other than outside of a practice where that means basically as much as a Kirby Smart press conference after one of his practices. I just don't think you're getting much out of that. Trent, I mean, is it a little bit different than most of the recruitments you've been a part of?
I mean, yeah, it's a lot different just because you're dealing with a lot of people, and you're dealing with a lot of people close to the family, and whether it's a 7-on-7 coach or your trainer or whatever, and you're not getting anything from that side. If you're getting anything, you're getting it from the family or the head coach, and I'm not sure the head coach even knows his head coach necessarily. So if you're not getting anything from the family, you're not getting anything at all. And there's not many people getting anything from the family unless, you're Thomas Davis or somebody like that. So it's different just from the simple fact that we're having to go strictly on how staffs feel and, get how do they feel in this recruitment? How's their vibe from the family and stuff like that. And so there's no really source to go to in this besides, the coaching staffs. And then that's where it's lying at right now.
I was just going to say it's amazing too, because I mean, let's look back at the 22 class with Gunnar Stockton, right? He did interviews. Even a regular old Joe like me went up there and talked to him after practice, and got Roddy went up there and got clips of his game and all that kind of stuff. There's none of that with Arch. There's no. I mean, the kid has done one interview after there was rivals and some On3 guys and everybody there at a practice, and it kind of seems like a press conference kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, no one's even heard the kid speak. I mean, it's such a unique thing where the kid doesn't speak, his family doesn't speak. His high school coach, I mean, Blaine, you've talked to him. He speaks a little, but even he is not coach necessarily, but he knows not to.
He speaks a lot actually, but all he says is the same thing over and over again, and that's probably these are the 5 bullet points that the Manning family is. Here's your sheet of paper. Here's what you can go off of. I mean, that's probably what is going on there. But when it comes down to it, I don't think that a tight end that plays with him that commits to Texas is going to do anything. I don't think that's going to be the deciding factor. I don't think that this person going this place. Ultimately, they are going to make the decision they feel is going to best prepare Arch for the long-term future. If that holds to be true, and stability matters as it has for, I mean, Eli Manning told the San Diego Chargers not to draft him because their program was garbage, in his opinion, that there was not enough stability. It didn't have long-term success in the future. So if that holds the least bit true, and they also want the component of Arch Archie Manning, the grandfather, saying that he's told all of his both his sons and also Archie, go somewhere where you would enjoy being, even if you weren't playing football. Go for just a school. I feel like Georgia checks all those boxes. I don't know how much Texas checks all those boxes. I know Austin is a new kind of hip growing city, but don't know that in terms of the stability and the ability to win, and also the ability to compete against the best guys. They're not going to be in the SEC for another 2 years. That's another reason that I feel like it goes against them. But that's just where we're at right now with all of it. And I'm sure we're going to have even some more questions here in just a little bit. But before we get to the vault questions, let's talk about subscribing, guys. We need you to subscribe to the channel. We're already well up past the 27,000 subscriber mark. It's been growing like crazy in this off season here since Georgia's won the national championship all the way throughout that run. So if you enjoy this content, if you enjoy listening to Jim Donnan and Roddy and Dane all talk on Tuesdays, Paul and Ben on the call-in show, and Jason over there with those guys, we got a lot of live content that goes on. So do us a favor, just move the cursor down just a little bit there and hit the subscribe button, and also give us a thumbs up while you're in here. We really appreciate that. Turn on notifications so you get a little ding there every time we go live. But without further ado here, let's look at just a couple of YouTube comments before we go on here.
While you're finding that, one other thing that's interesting is that you're talking about stability is the fact that there was a lot of NFL talk with Todd Monken in the offseason, following the season, and them to announce that kind of contract extension before the family's coming on campus and stuff like that. Kind of showed, hey, Monken's he's going to be here for a while. He's enjoying being here, and so that's another line of stability that you're referring to.
Monken, it's been rumored that a lot of NFL guys, former NFL guys, right, recruiting maybe isn't their most favorite activity in the world to do. But Monken went up to Findlay, Ohio, and watched Ryan Montgomery, a 2025 quarterback, throw during the evaluation period. I don't think he's going to waste his time going up and doing that if he knows he's got a foot out the door. So to your opinion, I think if you're looking at quarterbacks, and obviously he's involved with Juju Lewis, the quarterback that's going to be at Carrollton this year as a freshman, a 2026 guy. I don't think you're looking at quarterbacks that far out if you're not planning on being around for a little while. So I agree with you there, Trent. All right, Jed, we got our first one from Sandbar Bathroom.
Yeah, could Georgia lead behind the scenes for Jordan Hall, or is it too early to tell?
I think it's a little early to say leading and things like that. Obviously, I think you got to get him on. I think I'm just kind of old school in the fact that I think before you can lead with anybody, you got to get them to agree to come on an official visit. And I think that would be the case here. But, I know Jordan Hall's someone they're going after heavily. But Jed, Trent, any of y'all that have any insight on the big interior defensive lineman there?
No, I mean, it's one of those things. At this point, they're positioned to maybe make a move, get an official visit later in the fall. But yeah, he's definitely one of those guys. You look at Jamal Jarrett, who, thanks to Adam Friedman, our national guy, Jamal Jarrett's supposed to be announcing July 19th. Sadir Mitchell is another guy Georgia's after, but Big Baby Hall is another guy that they're after and looking to add, a kind of a defensive interior guy looking to add in this class.
Yeah, I mean, he can move around. He's 6'5", around that 300 range. But Trent, I mean, he's a guy from Jacksonville. I know that I'm not saying he's involved in this recruitment, but I know Todd Hartley's got some great connections down there in Jacksonville, and of course, the Coach Uzo Deribe and all these other guys. Fran Brown even has some connections. So there's lots of guys. Will Muschamp for being the former Florida Gator head coach. I mean, there's lots of guys that have connections down in Florida. But it seems like, Florida State, Florida, South Carolina, all involved in this recruitment. So what's your kind of thoughts on it, Trent?
Yeah, and the one that didn't say was Trey Scott, who's just put 3 guys in the NFL in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
So
he would be the position coach, but I was just naming guys who are got Florida ties.
Georgia's got a lot of connections in that area. Speaking of Hartley and that, but if I'm Trey Scott, I'm shooting my shot with every single big interior lineman or defensive end
a tweener
in the country. So because you have what he was lacking is we knew he was a good developer. We knew he was a good coach on the field, but what he was lacking was those first round picks. So that's another I guess weapon in his pocket now that he can go out and use on the recruiting trail. And he's going to shoot his shot with all these guys. And I think Hall is just another one.
Yeah, for sure. So great question there, Sandbar Bathroom. We really appreciate it. I mean, I definitely think Jordan Hall is someone they're going to continue to pursue, but it also kind of depends on, okay, what happens with certain guys in certain positions. How do they come along with the interior guys that they already have, squarely in their sights? And then if they end up viewing him as a defensive end, who really fits that mold now for Georgia, because they've kind of been going either bigger interior guys or which I think Jordan Hall could kind of work his way into, or more stand-up edge guys. So kind of remains to be seen here. All right, Harley Dog 80.
How close are we to getting a future cast for Quay Russaw and James Smith?
All right, so I actually put in a future cast a while back for Quay Russaw. I feel that Georgia, Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann specifically, and now the addition of Chidera Uzodiribe, I feel at this point in time they've done the best job recruiting Quay Russaw. And one thing that I've learned, because I've kind of been, following it every step of the way with Quay, even when Georgia was first getting on him, is that this is a young man that just loves to work. And he doesn't like all the glitz and glam. He hates recruiting. In fact, like he like dreads going on these visits, but he enjoyed his time at Georgia. And the thing that stuck out the most to him was seeing his mom and his sister enjoy the visit. And then secondly, Kirby Smart straight up told him, he said, there's absolutely nothing guaranteed to you. We're not guaranteeing you to start. The only thing we're guaranteeing you is hard work. And that was like, feeding candy to a baby right there. I mean, he absolutely loved it. Quay, this is a young man that squats over 600 pounds. I mean, he's strong as an ox. He loves working out in the weight room, grinding. So I feel like Georgia might be in a little bit better shape with Quay than James Smith at the moment. And I don't think by any means they're a package deal. You hear that a lot, Trent, but it never seems to pan out.
Yeah, I've heard a lot more about Quay than I have about James, and it doesn't necessarily say that Georgia's chances are not good with both of them. I've just heard a little bit more about Georgia. Georgia likes his chances with Quay, and I think James is the guy that you haven't you've kind of seen after a couple of visits he's been on, that you see some talk. Oh, he's going to be at Alabama or he'll be at Auburn or whatever. But I still think Georgia's in that one. But I do think they stand a better chance right now for Quay in this class.
Absolutely. All right, so here we go. Andy Stowe, Jed.
Yeah, please explain the meaning of a non-committable offer. What is the point of offering a prospect if you aren't really going to take them? I just don't understand the reasoning behind this.
Yeah, I kind of wish that you weren't able to do that, but Trent, the way it goes now is you kind of have to extend an offer with some of these guys just to say, okay, we don't want to look like we were the last one to the party here.
Yeah, and you see a lot of these guys that get offered as sophomore and juniors, and then throughout that time, the staff is really monitoring your body, how you're taking care of your body, how you're developing in the weight room, how you're developing as a football player. If you're letting your body go and not working in the off season, you're going to see that offer, that previous offer that they've given, go to other guys. So also another thing is when, like CJ Smith jumping on board today, you're going to start seeing.
That was last class. CJ Allen.
I mean, CJ Allen. I'm sorry.
No, bro. CJ Smith did jump on board. He was just a little earlier.
It's Kristen Williams all over again.
Shut up. CJ Allen jumping on board. You start seeing spots fill up. So if you have 8-9 offers on the inside linebacker, you obviously can't take all 8. So if that class gets full, or you're holding a spot for, say, Trey Boyles and towards the end, then you don't have I mean, yes, that offer becomes non-committable. So it's all about spots, and it's all about how they develop as a player throughout the years. Because you don't we saw a couple, I think, last year that they didn't take care of their bodies in the off season. They got a little bit overweight. That offer became non-committable. Then you start focusing on the guys elsewhere. So there's a lot of different reasons for it, but majority of the time is just staff. They're evaluating the position, and they continue to evaluate the position. That's why you have the evaluation period in the spring, and they go from there.
Now,
Well,
Trent,
and a lot. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Trent, you've done this longer than me and Blaine have. Let me ask you this: do you think it's more that offers are non-committable when they're given, or it's like you said, guys, don't take care of their bodies, whatever, and an offer becomes non-committable based on something the coaching staff sees while they're still evaluating a kid?
I think some of them are. It's different way. I think we talked about this previously. Is some of them are camp offers, and some of them are offers to come and see how you do in a camp setting in front of the Georgia staff. And if you do, then your offer becomes committable. But other times, it is what we were talking about, was that they might receive an offer their sophomore year, and they just don't develop as a player over that time, and they focus their time elsewhere.
Well, and the other thing is too, a lot of times I know for a fact that Georgia will tell guys, "Hey, this is more so an opportunity for you to, earn your way into having a spot into the class. Like we're interested in you enough to let you know that we're going to be actively recruiting you. That's what this offer means, but it doesn't mean that you have a spot right away." But some guys, some guys like a Justice Haynes or a Arch Manning or somebody, they offer them and they say, "Hey, you can commit whenever you want." Like they just tell them. I mean, I think as long as you're, a lot of these young men that we talk to, the main thing is they just want somebody to be honest with them, right? So if as long as you're upfront and honest and you say, "Hey, here's what this offer means," then I think most of them are pretty cool with it. All right, Just John 419 says, "What recruit in the 2023 class could be our Georgia's next Trayvon Walker in that D end edge role?" So when you think Trayvon Walker, I think you think of tremendous athlete. I think you think of a versatile guy, someone that can play a lot of different positions, can be used on special teams. So it would have to be somebody. Obviously, if Georgia were to, firmly get in the race with a Nichols Harbor, that would be a guy that kind of stands out as just that can do literally everything on the football field. But I'm telling you, I think that the guy that we just talked about, Quay Russaw, is someone who I think he could end up playing inside linebacker. I think he could play edge. I think in certain packages he could even, bump down just a little bit if he adds a little bit more weight and play a kind of even a true defensive end type deal, because he's strong as he can be. I mean, ridiculously strong, and he's got good speed. So, I mean, I think there's lots of guys that fit that mold. Trent, I think two guys that are kind of fit that mold now are Michael Williams and Marvin Jones Jr., who Georgia has. People don't realize the two studs that Georgia brought in that class.
Definitely. I mean, you looking at Michael Williams, he is probably going to play that similar role, either a jack linebacker or hand in the dirt defensive end. And, Marvin Jones might be more of a stand-up guy, but if you're looking at strictly edge guys, those are the two guys you look at in last class. And then you got, like you said, Nichols Harbor, you have Jaden Wayne, you have those guys that are a lot very similar to, I guess, in how they'd be used as Trayvon Walker. Nichols Harbor might be more of a stand-up edge rusher, but I mean, there's a bunch of guys that can fill that role as a guy off the edge.
Yeah, and here's the thing: when you're talking about a guy who can move around, what did Trayvon Walker end up being at? Was he was like what 6'5",
Yeah, something like that.
270, something like that. I mean, so you're looking at a guy like Quay Russo's already, depending on what you look at, he's 6'3", maybe 6'4", and could probably end up playing it at 240, 245. So maybe not quite as heavy, but literally there's a reason that Trayvon Walker was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. It wasn't because of statistics. It's because he was a just human anomaly. I mean, it's unbelievable he can move at the speed and rate that he can at that size, but that would be a guy that I would think is kind of closest to it. Jed, does anybody else jump out to you as a guy who could be that kind of ridiculous athlete?
It's like y'all said, like Mike, I heard that comp for Michael Williams from him and from other people so many times last year. It's hard to think of anyone else. I think when you look, I like what you said, Blaine, about Quay Russo, because it's not necessarily the same size as Trayvon, but could be used kind of all over the field. I mean, you look at a guy like
Gabriel Harris.
Yeah, or Sam and Pemba too. That's another guy, kind of like Trent was saying about Marvin Jones, might be more of a stand-up guy, but just a super freaky athlete.
You're right. You're right. That's the one right there, Samuel and Pemba, because that dude's already 245, 250 pounds and runs like a absolute gazelle playing tight end, and can move. And for IMG, at one point he was even being recruited by people at tight end, but now Georgia's looking at him as an edge guy. But he's big enough, strong enough, he could move down, kind of cover down like Trayvon did. They drop him back in pass coverage in some fire zone situations, stuff like that. Good call, Jed. That's the one. It's either Quay Russo or Samuel and Pemba. See, that's the insight that a national analyst.
That's why they pay me the national analyst money. If only I could say it right.
Hey, see, Trent. That's why we have the national analyst here on with us each week, just bringing the insight.
I just feel honored to be right here next to you every night.
I mean, I didn't want to say it, but I mean,
there we go. So B Hodge 0702 has one of your favorite questions here, Jed.
Arch update and potential timeline for a commitment. Well, last time I was in Athens, the arch was still there. It's still black. You're still not supposed to walk under it until you graduate. So that's update.
Well, here's our arch updates. He just gave the one on the structure. We can recap again that Trent built that arch chair in his basement and then put it on a used trailer and drove it over there for them to use for these June official visits. So that was the arch throne. Arch Manning, we already touched on earlier. I mean, the ball's in his court now. You know what I'm saying? Like Georgia, Alabama, and Texas all had their opportunity to kind of make their closing arguments, if they will. I used the courtroom analogy. The lawyers have all made their closing arguments, and now the jury is going back to deliberate. And it's not a jury of 12. It's probably a jury of 3 people. I'm not even sure if Arch Manning's mama is really involved in this one. I think it's more Arch, Cooper, and maybe Arch's brother involved in this, that kind of stuff. Granddad may get a say too, but who knows with all this kind of stuff. But I think the timeline is to be determined, but I do feel that it's a Georgia-Texas race, and we'll see when he feels like confident and pull the trigger. I personally tend to agree with Jed and Trent and also Roddy that I don't think a decision has been made. I think some people over there on the Texas side feel that a decision's been made, and I just don't think that's the case. All right, Dog B.
Who is the next receiver that'll commit, and is it tied to Arch's timing / commitment?
Seeing as how we said we didn't know the timing of Arch's commitment, I would think that the one that is tied to that, Trent, that if anybody's tied to it is Jalen Hale, because they're just such good friends. They were on their visit to Athens together. I think it's worth noting that that's the only visit that they were on together. They weren't at Texas together. Arguably, nobody put a collection of talent around Arch Manning like Georgia did. Nobody had the likes of a Pierce Spurlin, Justice Haynes, a Jalen Hale, a TJ Shanahan, all in the room at the same time. So Jalen Hill, I mean, Hakeem Williams is a guy who could probably take notice of that, but I'm not sure either one of those guys are going to be the next one. I feel like there might be a couple others that they're a little bit closer with, Trent.
Yeah, and this is the thing where, like you said, Jalen Hill could be on the timeline of Arch's commitment. I do think you could see a commitment, this summer from Hill. It could come after Manning. If it came before Manning, I think that would speak volume of his confidence in where. And I'm not sure he knows because, like we said, we're not sure Arch even knows where he's going. But I do think Hale could could be a summer commitment. But also there's a couple guys that that could come before that. Especially the guys they had on, particular player they had on campus last weekend. I guess Evans. There's a couple guys that could decide before then. But I would watch Hale as a summer commitment. Maybe close to or shortly after Manny's commitment.
Yeah. But in terms of the next one, I mean, somebody who's getting kind of tired of the whole recruiting thing, Anthony Evans, Tyler Williams, both of them. Who knows? We'll see.
And Tyler Williams.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. I know Anthony Evans was like, I'm sick of taking visits now. He's like, I want to break. It reminds me of remember on the Cat Williams segment where he said, you don't want to get mixed up going to a party with some of your Hispanic friends, because he said it's gonna be a party that lasts all weekend. He said you should be over there dancing. Man, I want to go home. That's how Anthony Evans was acting right there in that.
I will say that this wide receiver class has potential to be the best or one of the best ones that's come through in a while. Just potential wise with guys like Hale, Evans, Hakeem Williams, and then the guys you got committed. Tyler Williams too. There's a lot of potential in this class for this to be a very good wide receiver class.
A diverse one too. There's a lot of guys that fit a lot of different roles. I know one thing that Georgia wants is they want speed. They want to pack as much speed as possible in the class at wide receiver, and that just seems to be the theme in college football in general, and Georgia's no different in that. All right, Jed, one of your favorite questioners here.
PA Dog 610. What is the running back situation for the 23 class? Justice Haynes and who else?
Okay, so I think everybody here now, obviously, still have to see how things kind of played out after Justice Haynes' visit to Alabama, and he's still got a big visit coming up to Ohio State. Once that's over with, I feel like you're within a probably a few weeks after that visit's taken of getting a decision from Justice. I would think that Georgia's done what they've needed to do to kind of be first and foremost on his mind as he comes to a decision. I know that Justice Haynes is first and foremost when it comes to Georgia's mind as running backs. I mean, obviously there's some talented running backs in this class, Richard Young being one of them who was there this weekend. But Trent, I think that the focus has always been mainly on Justice Haynes. Like, he's the one that they've circled, and usually when Dale McGee goes after somebody that intently, he ends up bringing them to Athens.
Yeah, I think the focus has been on that, and I also think they're still evaluating that position for the second guy. You mentioned Richard Young. There's been 4 or 5 running backs that have come through and been like possible number 2 guy to go alongside Justice Haynes, but I don't think they've nailed down what particular one they want just yet. I mean, of course, they would take Richard Young in a heartbeat, but I think there's in a battle there with Alabama along with a couple other teams. So I think there's still some evaluation going on at that position for the number 2 guy, but their sole focus is landing Justice Haynes and going from there.
And I think too, Jed, the conversation about committable offers comes into play right there, right? Because Georgia's running back's a position, even though Georgia's taking 2, it's very limited. You know what I'm saying? And who you can take and win. And so I think Georgia is kind of wanting to let guys know, hey, we may be interested in you, Jamarian Wilcox or somebody like that, but I don't know if they want to, offer somebody until maybe they're ready to possibly take them in the class. And I don't know if that's the case right now with some of these other guys outstanding. But I will say this: I think that's a name to before this is all said and over with, that to keep an eye on with Jamari Wilcox. I mean, this is a guy who's visiting Ohio State, other places like that. He's been to Georgia several times. I think he's going to have a huge senior season.
Yeah, actually, when I went and saw him in person as part of my national analyst job, he said people over there have got a baby Nick Chubb nickname for him going on over there. But you got him, you got another in-state guy, and DJ Braswell. They're recruiting Jeremiah Love out of, I think, St. Louis.
And they haven't even offered Braswell yet, and Braswell's got an offer from Alabama.
Yeah, I don't know. They've offered Wilcox, have they?
No, they haven't offered. But that's what I'm saying.
So
they haven't offered.
You got two of these guys who are, quote unquote targets, two of which don't even have offers yet. So, like you said, Trent, Richard Young is the guy that if he wanted to join the class, Georgia would take him right now. It kind of seems like he is more likely to end up maybe somewhere else, maybe like Alabama. But yeah, it's always been, like you said, Blaine, Justice Haynes is priority 1 or 1A or whatever, and then everyone else is kind of the pecking order, kind of still being sorted out for that number 2 spot.
Man, there's all kinds of, I don't even know what's going on in the YouTube chat right now. There's people arguing about where Jim Harbaugh ranks in the top coaches in the country, recruiting versus recruiting versus facts. That's kind of, that fits, right? Recruiting versus facts, because that's kind of how it goes. I think, rumors versus facts is very entertaining over here in the comment section. So we appreciate everybody, putting those in. If you got any recruiting questions, go ahead and throw those in here too. We'll be answering yours in just a minute as we go through. Not going to talk Jim Harbaugh and where he ranks though in the coaching pantheon.
Unless he's sleeping over at a punter's house.
Yeah. Hey, we'll leave his sleeping habits alone. All right, Razor Ramon 24, my favorite name so far throughout this. Some people just love my affinity for pro wrestling over there. But if Arch Manning's last name wasn't Manning, would he be the number 1 player in the country? I will defer to our national analyst and the one who is, he personally ranks all these kids.
I do.
Every one of them.
I do. I have a giant spreadsheet with like 3,000 kids on it, and I just sit in my room for like 3 days.
It's Jed's decision. So Jed, would you put Arch Manning as number 1 if his name wasn't Manning? If his name was Jim Bob Cooter, would he be the number 1 overall recruit?
Because of his name, I'd make him number 1 overall alone, wherever he's coaching at now.
If his last name was Gilmer.
Oh, his last name was Gilmer. He definitely wouldn't be. His last name was Gilmer. He wouldn't be running that 4.6 that he runs. It'd be up closer to 5 flat. I promise you. Genetics are a strong thing.
I mean, the thing is like, and I don't pretend to be like a great quarterback evaluator or whatever, but like, it's not like there's another guy that it feels like being robbed. Because remember last summer, Blaine and Trent, when we were in the same spot last summer, LT Overton was the number 1 guy in the 23 class. And obviously he's reclassified, but he also dropped down in the 23 class before that. So there's not like that one guy who's super like pushing. I mean, Cormani McClain is up there. Caden Proctor is up there pretty. I don't even know who's number 2 right now. I guess I should probably know that.
Look at
it's not like, yeah, okay. Yeah, give me a second. It's not like there's a guy who is being robbed, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Arch Manning is a good player from what I know. I mean, again, I'm not a genius, but okay, Kwamani McClain's number 2, Samuel Mpemba's number 4 or number 3, rose up 4 spots. And then, then you got Malachi Nelson as number 4 overall and number 2 pro style quarterback. So I don't know. I haven't seen either one of those guys in person, of course. But it kind of seems like he's good. I will say enough, I guess.
I mean, I will say this. I think in any year, regardless of what his last name is, because of 3 main factors, okay? But because of what you see with his ball placement, what you see with how quick his release is, and what you see with his athleticism and footwork, Arch Manning is going to be a top 10 prospect any year because of that. Maybe if his name's not Manning, there's a stronger push to put a Malachi Nelson or a Nico Iamaleava up there. Hey, I'm not going to pretend there's not any kind of bias because of that. It's a media attention thing from the time he was in 7th grade. He was having articles written about him. Okay. It's just the way that it goes. But to his credit, there could have been pressure to, to basically crumble underneath, right? He could have wilted under that, but no, he's thrived. He has put up, tremendous numbers. He's looked great on big stages, things of that nature. And, he's done so with, it's not like he's got a bunch of just gazelles running around him over there at Isidore Newman, right? I mean, it's a bunch of guys who are going to be, CEOs and accountants and things of that nature over at Isidore Newman.
And another thing, any perceived Manning bump or whatever, it's not like it's taking him from a 3-star guy to number 1 in the country. Kind of like you said, Blaine. Like if his last name was Smith or whatever, he'd still be a top 10 prospect that Georgia would be recruiting, and Alabama would be recruiting, and Texas would be recruiting, whatever. So, I mean, obviously, there's so much that goes with this recruitment and this commitment because his last name is Manning, but it's not like he's just an average player that is being thrown up to number 1 because of last name. Also, guys, I didn't even think about this. We haven't even talked about AJ Harris's commitment on the show yet.
Yeah, AJ Harris commitment was huge, but like I said, it's been fast paced, man. I mean, Joshua Miller, AJ Harris, a kicker in Peyton Woodring, which I'll say his name, but from now on, I'm just going to refer to him as the kicker because that's kind of how we deal with the kicker position. No, I mean, he's a very, very good kicker, long of 56 yards. So Georgia gets him over Alabama. And now with CJ Allen. So there's a lot of talented guys, but it's a lot that is going on. But I don't think you can overstate that, Trent, how big of a pickup AJ Harris is in this class.
Yeah, I mean, a couple months ago, it was looking like Florida was the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
We all know where he kind of resides from, and then Georgia has been a school in there since day one. I kind of like with Georgia's class last year, the opportunity to play early might be a little weaker at Georgia than it would be at other schools, but getting them on campus, like we've talked about in the past. Having that opportunity to let Kirby and his staff go to work. When you get Kirby and Muschamp, there's not a better secondary group of coaches with what Georgia's got on campus and
adding Fran Brown to the mix didn't hurt.
Fran Brown and their ability to sell and to be able to get them on campus and to get them to cancel the official visit to Florida and commit that fast was very impressive.
For sure, absolutely was. Now, when it comes down to some of these other guys too, another guy that could be arguably he's number 3 in the country overall is Samuel Mpemba, who we talked about a little bit earlier, and we have a YouTube question here. It says Mpemba isn't on Georgia's radar. I don't think. I don't know. It says where. Rugsy Vid says, where does UGA sit with Samuel Mpemba? Well, he's coming on campus in 2 days. He'll be making an unofficial visit to Georgia on the 22nd, and him and Chidera Uzo-Diribe have really hit it off, starting to build a really good relationship between those two. So I think Georgia's right in the mix with Samuel Mpemba. I really do. I feel like it's Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Miami, some of those
Missouri
type schools.
Home state school, Missouri too.
Yeah, Missouri. Unless your last name's Burden, I refuse to believe you're going to Missouri. But that's another story for another time. But Samuel Mpemba, I think Georgia's right there in it. Here's a good question for you, Jed. Is Seven Cloud a real person? You are a national. You're a national analyst. Have you seen Flesh and Blood 7 Cloud?
Our clouds aren't flesh and blood anyway. They're like water droplets, right?
Condensation.
Yeah, I don't know. It's 7 Cloud is a guy where it's one of those, because he's been so all over the place with schools, and last year there was like is he eligible? Is he ineligible? Is he just can't get up? There's so many I don't even know. And this isn't even answering the question of whether it's real or not. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is a guy that like has to go like the JUCO
an alternate route,
or
Jackson State, something like that.
Like signs and but goes somewhere else or something, because
he'll be committed to Georgia until about a week before signing day. Then he'll end up going to Jackson State, and Dion will say, "I flipped him from Georgia."
Who was that? Wasn't there a defensive lineman a few years ago, Trent, that had to do something similar, kind of because of a grades thing going on?
Justin Young.
Maybe I don't know.
Justin Young did.
Devontae Wyatt.
Devontae Wyatt did.
Devontae Wyatt's who I'm thinking of. So I mean, it's I think that's kind of what we might be looking at with Seven Cloud again, if he proves to be a real person. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Jed's
gonna go hunt him down.
Yeah, I'll report back on that one.
Absolutely.
If you're asking if he's going to be on the signing, if he's going to sign with Georgia, I would say no. It doesn't mean he doesn't end up at Georgia at some point. It doesn't mean he doesn't go like a JUCO route, but I don't think he signed for Georgia in February.
I don't see him on Georgia's roster in 23.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, and who knows? Lots of things can happen for guys. Still got some time before he was. I don't think he was never going to be an early enrollee guy. Anyways, I think he's more of a February guy. So, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But we're just going to keep digging away here, getting you as many reports as we can. We had stories on Whit Weeks, Quay Russaw. You had an Olas Lennon interview, I believe, that you did, Jed. Anybody? Who else did we talk to from the official visits this past weekend?
We've talked to Malik Benson a little. Actually, it's funny. I was telling you this earlier, Blaine. I was DMing with Malik Benson earlier, and I looked at some messages that I traded with him earlier in his recruitment, and he said in February, talking about Georgia, quote, "It's been a dream school since I started playing football my sophomore year." So one of those things you kind of forget about, and then you wish you kind of remembered. So Georgia's Malik Benson. He obviously came to Athens from Tuscaloosa unofficially. Did those back to back. He didn't get in Athens until late Friday night, so I think he stayed into and left this morning. So we're trying to get in touch with Hakeem Williams, and then we got another weekend coming up with Blaine, like you mentioned, Samuel and Pimba this week. Tony Mitchell's going to be in town on an unofficial this weekend.
Maybe even some surprise guys that haven't been announced yet. We'll see how that comes out. So make sure you are subscribed to UGASports Vault. And we always the community over there is just unrivaled in how the banter back and forth on stuff. I've really just been enjoying Winder Dad's posts on the Arch saga over there. It's great stuff. Him and Donut Dog are kind of rivaling each other for the most chronically pessimistic posts over there for Georgia faithful. So all kinds of good stuff to look at over there. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, subscribe if you don't already. Just hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. It is absolutely free, and it helps us a ton. Also, before you sign off, literally, there's hundreds of you in here. Just hit that thumbs up button. Really helps us a lot. But, guys, that is going to do it for us this week. For Trent Smallwood and Jed May, I am Blaine Gilmer, and we will catch you guys next time on UGA Sports, Rumors versus Facts.